Hello and welcome back to the channel. This time you join us at Llandow kart circuit for the first access karting test day of the year. Today was quite special as it was the first day when we would get to test out the brand new Vega tyres. However, for this session we stuck to our old Maxxis so we could get a comparison. Throughout the day we discovered that the Vegas had a lot more grip than the Maxxis, at least in these wet conditions. This is shown when Jake of all people overtakes me. Here's a quick hot lap of Llandow. So coming into the first chicane we're using all three of the curbs to try and get the kart rotated on a very slippery circuit. And of course using the final curb as much as we can to try and straighten out the exit. We get a bit of a slide. Coming into what would be the flat out right hander, there are different lines you can use. So you can smash the curb or do what I just did and miss the apex and then use more of the runner. This changed for me from session to session as the tracks were changing or the tyres were changing. But come onto the final straight now using all of the exit, even if we get a massive snap of oversteer as we come onto the different surface, and then we come into the hairpin ready to brake, and we do lock up a bit, which isn't amazing, but we take the normal line and there's a lot of grip on it, so we're fine anyway. After that session we went to the series organisers and collected our brand new Vega tyres, and we got them fitted to the rim ready for the next session. Unfortunately we had to start at the back because we were a bit late arriving to the grid, but it meant that we had a lot of fun coming through the pack. The thing that surprised us most about these new Vega tyres is how fast they warmed up and how much grip they had even when they were cold. This hot lap under the new Vega tyres, even though it was only about an hour later than the last session, we were going about 4.5 seconds quicker, and in the next session we went back onto the Maxxis just for a comparison, and we straight away went 4 seconds slower again. So that just shows how much more grip these Vegas have. It is however worth noting that these Vegas are brand new compared to our Maxxis, which have done an entire season's worth of racing and some test days in between. For this session we put the tyre pressures to 25 psi because of the wet conditions, whereas in the session before on the Maxuses we were at 30 just because they're so much harder to get warmed up. We think that this is around right for these tyres in the wet, but we'll be doing more testing and finding out more about that soon.
What lap time?
I did a 1 minute .9.
You did a 101 dead.
Yeah. What did you do?
102.
2 seconds on the post.
Oh God! I apologise for bringing you to the world.
What time is that?
It was really surprising to see just how much faster I went than Jack in this session, because normally he's one of the fastest racers in the championship, even coming third in last year's championship when I only came 5th. But I guess today just wasn't his day.
So we just did the first session on the brand new Vega tyres. They were so much greater than the Maxuses, but for the next session, as you can see, Morgan is changing back over to the Maxuses, just so that we preserve our Vega practice tyres.
As you've just heard, we're back on the sports for this session, which in hindsight was quite a mistake because the whole point of today and the main focus of today was to learn about the new Vegas. However, we still had a good session, mostly because something very, very interesting happens to Morgan about halfway through. That's unbelievable. Morgan has binned it for the second test day in a row. Shocking. Now we're going out for the final session, and this time we decided to go back to the Vega tyres, just so that we could get an idea of how they worked. However, I think we went way too low on the pressures this session, because when I came back into the pit lane, the tyres were still stone cold. But that's why we have a test day, to learn and find out what we did wrong so that we don't do it come race day. We put our tyres to 15 psi for this session. For the final session, I found the kart to have a lot more oversteer than I would have liked, and I think this may be because of the new tyres. However, it could just be the track changing and the setup that we had was wrong. We know that the gearing was wrong at least. I was only hitting 5,450 revs in this final session, when really we should be trying to aim for 6,200 by the end of the straights. On this final lap you'll see me start to reel in the two karts in front very quickly, and that's because they start going side by side and fighting with each other, which is the best way to lose yourself time. You'll see how much time I gain, especially in the final hairpin and the second chicane. So that's another day of testing successfully completed. We hope you learnt something about the new Vega tyres, and we'd like to quickly thank Radfire Sprinklers, our amazing sponsors, and we'd also like to thank you for watching this video until the end. So please consider liking, subscribing and leaving a comment. Thank you.